The rain continues at Oran Park Raceway, the third and final race in round 5 of the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. And our poleman, Jonathan Webb for Stone Brothers Racing, alongside him, Damien White and Tony D'Alberto and Luke Yilden on road 2.
Dale Wood will start out of grid 5 and Owen Kelly from grid 7. We'll have to keep an eye on that one.
We certainly will. Andrew Thompson from 10, Michael Caruso, position 11, and the Kiwi, John McIntyre's had a tough weekend in the Matthew White team car. Adam Sharp from 20th, trying to recover from that race 1 fire, and Jose Fernandez has been a bit off the pace.
Has been, but anything can happen in these conditions. Colin Cedars, grid 26, got a lot of work ahead of him.
Mark Howard and the Howard team celebrating their 200th race start this weekend. A big field of cars. Tim Slade will start from the rear of the field alongside Scott Loadsman in the Tinter Car Commodore. The start, absolutely critical in very greasy conditions. The rain has stopped at Oran Park Raceway at the moment. It's a pretty even jump between the top two. Kane Scott, though, the Kiwi in the Smeg Commodore, he's the big jumper.
He got a great start, as did Tony D'Alberto up the inside into turn 1. It looked like Tony got a great start, but then broke into wheel spin in the second phase of the start.
Oh, Kane Scott backwards at turn 1, and he's in the sand. There goes another one, Sam Walter. Chris Pether's off. That's D'Alberto. Tony D'Alberto and David Cedars has really been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, what looked like was going to be a nice, clean, tidy start all went downhill as soon as they got to turn 1. So D'Alberto will have to keep an eye on his progress as he comes back through the field.
Turn 3, they sort themselves out. Very difficult when the tyres aren't just cold, they're at really low pressures, and some teams on brand new wet tyres, that's not the thing to have in these conditions.
Certainly not, because what happens when you're on brand new wet tyres, it takes 3 or 4 laps in the dry to actually get rid of the greasy, horrible feeling that looks like Luke Yilden's suffering as around he goes at turn 6.
Now there's quite a puddle there, and he's ended up looping off. Look at this, Jonathan Webb, Shannon O'Brien, all lining up for a piece of Dale Wood.
They are, and lurking in the background was Owen Kelly, and he started from pit lane, remember, in race 2, this time from grid 7, so he's a lot further up the road, and those guys in front of him will be keeping an eye on their rearview mirror.
WPS Chrysler safety car has been deployed. This is the reason why, and Dale Wood and Kane Scott got together. Kane Scott is the one in the scenery. All sorts of drama there.
It certainly was, and D'Alberto actually has a bit of contact from a result of being turned around there, so it will be interesting to see if that actually hampers his progress. There's a very slow restart as we get going on the green again, and Owen Kelly straight up the inside of Andrew Thompson.
Jonathan Webb, the inside of Dale Wood. Damien White, the leader. This is a longer race, race 3, a 25-lap race at Oran Park. Shannon O'Brien's car stepping out under brakes. Owen Kelly very keen to get on with the job.
Certainly is, and these guys are going to have to be very careful. We've only done 3 laps of racing, and one of those was under safety car, so there'll be no tyre temperature, and look how wet the track is. We've just had a big downpour here, so the standing water at the circuit will be a lot bigger than what they had in race 2, and the grip level is going to be even lower than what they experienced then.
So does this become basically a fight of patience? Who can be the most patient is he who will be at the front.
Well, it's a 25-lap race. You're not going to win it on lap 3, and everyone should have learnt from race 2 in the wet that the tyre temperature is critical. We need to build up tyre temperature. So it's all about surviving these first 5 or 10 laps and then making your move as you go forward. That doesn't seem to be going to Owen Kelly's plan, though. He's making his move now.
His teammate, Dean Neville, is in the pits in the other car, and look at the damage on the rim there.
It's taken a big chunk out of the bead of the rim, and it was actually a very smart move to come in and pit. I've had that happen on my car, and the tyre will pop off the bead, and not something you want around Oran Park.
We're hearing from pit lane that was for contact with Mark Howard, but Owen Kelly, this charge continues. He goes by Dale Wood. Look at Jonathan Webb sideways onto the main straight. It's so hard to get 600 plus horsepower through these rear Dunlops.
And there's just, like we've been harping about tyre temperature, but that's what it's all about. Rear tyre temperature won't be up, but they'll be spinning the tyre in 6th gear using half throttle down the front straight. And it's going to be those that's the most patient on the throttle. See Owen Kelly up the inside of Jonathan Webb. He's making this look easy.
I'm sure it's not, but he is making it look very easy. Why? How is this possible? How can it be that one car and one driver is seemingly running rings around the opposition?
Well, they've obviously got a very good wet weather setup. We've mentioned earlier that Owen's got a lot of experience in these cars. He's been in the the development series in its various guises plenty of times throughout his career. He's done a lot of main game driving, so he's probably done a lot more wet weather driving than these guys have. He's got a good setup, and he's in the zone. There's no two ways about it. We saw that in race 2 when he came from pit lane to the lead. This time he's gone from 7th to the lead in 4 laps.
You'd have to think if you were Tim Edwards at Ford Performance Racing and it rains at Sandown or Bathurst, you've picked a good guy.
Well, there's no doubt that they'll be very happy with his progress, and what they'll be most happy with is the way he's gone about it. He hasn't put a mark on the car. He's been aggressive without being over-aggressive, and he's got to the lead and not made mistakes from then on. What we've also seen is Damien White hasn't really put up much of a fight. He's realised that he's got a good points haul in this round, and he wants to get to the end with that points haul and get a bit of a run going.
Damien White defending second spot from Shannon O'Brien. There's Colin Cedars off the road on the exit of 8 towards the flip-flop. Here comes Shannon O'Brien. Just a little bit of a look down at turn 1. He's keen to make the run. Look at the mud kicked up there from the inside of the circuit.
Plenty of mud around here, and we've had rain for the last, well, all day, and the track edges are very sloppy now. You can see a lot of puddles off the side of the track. So once you go off, it's incredibly slippery. Hard to imagine that it'll actually be more slippery than on the circuit. As we see Shannon O'Brien up the inside into turn 3. And Damien White tries the over and under trick but can't get the job done. But yet again, Damien gave Shannon plenty of room. We're only lap 5 of 25.
Oh, a replay here. Mark Howard did that all by himself off the circuit. Another replay here. Colin Cedars the inside of Aaron McGill. Jay Verdict just in behind, and again, just got the car on the curb and then sent it away.
On the inside curb, and you actually use that curb in the dry to turn the car, get the car to hook around the corner, but in the wet with a minimal grip, that's going to turn you around very quickly. We've seen that plenty of times already today.
Marcus Sukanovic fighting back this weekend after a penalty in race 1 that was applied post-race for passing this man, Michael Caruso, under yellow flag conditions. He's got to do it all over again, and in terms of the championship, this track's very familiar for Ford Rising Stars Racing. It's no longer their test track, but they've done a lot of miles here. They'd be really disappointed with this weekend.
Marcus Sukanovic up the inside, nice clean move. They would have done plenty of miles, the Ford Rising Star team around here, but I dare say they wouldn't have done any in the wet. So any advantage they did have from this previously being their test circuit has been negated by the weather.
You can see on the rear of the cars that illuminated red light. That's compulsory to be on when grooved wet weather tyres are on these cars.
Certainly are, and that's because of the spray the cars generate. You can't actually see through the white wall of mist. So we see a replay here of Aaron McGill having a spin and ending up in the mud, but the white mist or the spray that the cars throw up from the standing water on the circuit where the cars run offline and through any puddles that may have formed creates this huge mist of spray, and you can't see a thing. It's like driving into a white wall.
Yellow flag at turn 1. Drew Russell is in the sand trap down there. We just saw Grant Denyer, who's fighting with that car. He's on a brand new set of wets for this race, and we're hearing from pit lane that they've broken the anti-roll bar cable on the warm-up lap, so he has no adjustability in that car mid-race.
I don't think that'll be a huge problem for Grant, as long as it's broken when it's in the full soft position, so that he's getting full advantage from a nice soft front anti-roll bar in these wet, greasy conditions. Is what we tend to do, is soften the cars up and try and generate more grip.
Andrew Thompson in the Howard Racing Falcon started from 10th in this race, scored pole in the dry earlier on in the weekend, but when the rain came, it washed away the chances, and he's under fire here from Damien Assailant and Marcus Sukanovic lining up too. In fact, he just went around the outside of him.
On board with Andrew Thompson over the flip-flop there, and you can just hear how cautious he is being with that throttle. Usually the flip-flop, that's almost flat in the dry, nowhere near flat in the wet.
And you could hear there grabbing the next gear a long way before the normal part on a dry track, because the rear tyres are simply spinning.
They certainly will be all the way to 6th gear.
Owen Kelly leads the way. It's been a miraculous comeback. Can he complete the job? More race 3 after the break. I hope you're dry wherever you are at home watching the 5th round of the Fujitsu V8 Supercars. A bit of synchronised spinning, Garth Tander, at Oran Park between Wayne Wakefield and Ashley Cooper. Michael Caruso had a solo performance that very nearly had disastrous consequences.
Certainly did. Nearly got cleaned up by his teammate, and around goes Mark McNally also. So not a lot of grip out there for those guys. As we see, it's raining more heavily now as the Kanga Lotus car's gone around.
John McIntyre had nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go. So a replay here of Shannon O'Brien up the inside.
That was a little naughty.
Well, very, very close. We'd have to see that from another angle to really establish what happened 100% there, but didn't really look like Shannon was far enough up the inside.
Grant Denyer, 5 laps to go at Oran Park Raceway on board.
Just hear how cautious he's being with that throttle. All the inputs in the wet, you have to be minimal. No aggressive inputs, that be it with the steering, the brake, the throttle, anything. Everything has to be as gentle as you can do it.
I don't think the panel damage on that car's too gentle. He's had it from the rear, bit of damage to the front. It's been a busy time at Oran Park today.
It's an unfortunate part of racing in the wet that there's a little bit more panel damage than normal, and it is really wet out there now. Those guys are struggling for grip, and really it's all about survival. With 4 laps to go, just bring the cars home in as best shape as you can.
And that is just an indication of how difficult it is. It's been a good race though for Grant. Has picked up 13 spots, so picks up some great points in the overall championship. Has missed a couple of rounds, but let's not forget he'll be behind the wheel at Sandown and Bathurst for the WPS racing team. Still driving this car at Mount Panorama in the Fujitsu series event, so it's going to be pretty busy over the next couple of months.
Well, you would have thought he doesn't do anything else. Apparently he's on the TV every now and then, and he's going to drive a race car at Bathurst, so pretty busy boy in October.
Marcus Sukanovic, the Opus Prime Commodore. Damien Asayla just in behind, who's just 17 years of age. He'll be on a plane back to Queensland to get stuck back into his studies in Toowoomba. He's studying pretty well. A-grade marks this weekend.
Certainly A-grade marks. He's done a great job. Kept his nose clean the whole weekend, and running inside the top 10, doing a great job in what is very difficult conditions.
A replay at turn 3 just gives Marcus a little bit of a nudge in the right rear that sends the Commodore sideways. And in these conditions, that's pretty easy to do. Not much intent there.
No intent there. As we see a replay of Luke Yulden losing the rear on the approach to turn 4. Does he keep it out of the mud? Yes, he does, but there's a little hump on the approach to turn 4 there that can upset the rear of the car and just throw it around, and in these wet conditions, it's not going to take much at all.
This is the fight for 3rd in the race. Damien White, Jonathan Webb, and they're on target for a podium finish for the round, but just who stands on what step is up for grabs at the moment.
No doubt that's what they're arguing at the moment, and we saw earlier in the race that Damien White was being very cautious and letting guys through where he felt they were faster. With 3 laps to go, I can't see that happening now.
Interesting to look at the 2 windscreen wipers. Damien's quite slow across the screen. Jonathan's is going pretty quickly. Look at Sukanovic, turn 11, making a really big lunge here, and he's made the move.
He has, but the problem you have is when you exit on the inside, there's a burnout pad there from when they do burnouts at other events, and it's very slippery. You cannot get any drive at all, and the outside lane's got much more drive, and we see Jonathan Webb scoot by again on the outside, and Sukanovic will have to have another look at another time.
Damien White hanging on, Jonathan Webb, Marcus Sukanovic, and Damien Asayla starting to join this group as well.
He's done a great job, kept out of trouble for the most part, as we see here. Ashley Cooper in the tyres, and it looks like the exit of the bridge, so very slippery there, and wonder whether we'll see a safety car with 2 laps to go. I wouldn't have thought so.
Ashley Cooper's had a tough weekend, sprayed his ankle getting out of this car after a drama in an earlier race, and it looks pretty much buried there.
He's trying forwards and backwards and not getting out of there at all. As we see a replay's contact with Mark Howard and into those tyres that have already been dislodged from an earlier incident, but managed to arrest the car. But this guy, he's been another zip code this weekend.
Marcus Sukanovic was on target for a great result, but has thrown it away at turn 8.
We saw earlier Marcus going around the outside, as struggling to get going again, but we saw him going around the outside of a couple of other guys earlier in the event. But as they get closer to the front of the field, the wiser guys are awake to that trick.
Here's the replay. He's on the outside of Jonathan Webb, and Jonathan just moved across to assume the line.
Just moved across enough that Marcus was on the painted curb on the exit, and that spins the tyre up, and there's so little grip up there you won't catch it.
Quite a big puddle there also, just as you straighten up on the exit of turn 8. This guy has been, well, braining them. There's no other description. Owen Kelly leading the way in race 3 with a comfortable margin. He's got lapped cars around him, such as the margin. Second place is a long way away. There's Shannon O'Brien, so not too far away, but Owen's got the bases covered.
I dare say Owen will just be managing that gap back to Shannon O'Brien, picking his way carefully through the lap traffic to ensure that there's no contact there and bring the car home in what will be a fantastic result for not only Owen's return to the series, but for Image Racing. They've had a lot of dramas this year, and it'd be great to see them have a solid result.
Shannon O'Brien solid in second. Here's that fight for third and fourth. These two had contact in qualifying. They've raced pretty hard, but pretty fairly in this third and final.
Been very fair. There's no doubt that they've been pushing each other incredibly hard, but they are racing for the further step up on the podium here, so there won't be any favours done. And but we've seen a lot of professionalism, a lot of respect between the two guys. They managed to put that qualifying incident behind them and only play for the race they're in.
Jonathan Webb, if he thought that Damien White was the only issue he had here, he's wrong. Damien Assailant, 17 years of age, the youngest driver in V8 Supercars this year, is all over the back of him on this last lap.
He has done a great job, Damien Assailant. He's stayed out of trouble in all these, and particularly these two wet races, and he's found himself inside the top 5. And what is more than likely going to be one of the most difficult driving conditions he's going to experience in his career, and only at 17 to keep it on the island behind these guys with experience is fantastic.
Were you doing this at 17?
I wish. I was still racing go-karts at 17 and trying to knock into the door at Formula Ford. So Damien's got a great future ahead of him if he just keeps his mind, and there's no reason to believe that he won't, because these are very trying conditions.
A great indication of the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series and what it can do. It can be a real platform for young drivers, also for guys like Owen Kelly looking to get some miles before Sandown and Bathurst. But there's only a few corners to go here. Damien White, Jonathan Webb looking to the outside. There's no grip there. He's going to have to slot back in.
He is, and I dare say that Damien White will cover the last passing opportunity in the last corner, but this guy's got it more than covered.
Oh, and Kelly with the power slide. Out of turn 11, he takes not just race 3, he wins the round at Oran Park. It's on for the minors between Jonathan Webb and Damien Assailant. They bump their way to the checkered flag. A brilliant race. We'll wrap it up after the break. Owen Kelly standing on the top step at Oran Park Raceway in Sydney, round 5 of the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. I don't think he'd ever thought that he could have won this round. He's done it by a point, and Damien White's third in that final race gives him second, clear of Jonathan Webb, but Owen Kelly must be still pinching himself.
We're lucky it rained. To be honest, we're a little bit average in the dry, and you know, after that race 1 incident where we got took out and we're at 25th place, who'd have thought we'd come back and win the round? So.
Mate, I'm pumped now. Naturally, when you step off a podium, you know, the adrenaline's absolutely steaming, but I know that the ex-Paul Morris car is a very good car and it's competitive in this field, and bring on Bathurst, mate. Looking forward to it.
Damien White moves to 5th in the points as Tony D'Alberto holds a 65-point buffer over Michael Caruso heading into the next 2 rounds. The final 2 rounds at Bathurst and Phillip Island. Coming up on 7 next Saturday, 1 p.m. V8 Extra, all the latest in V8 Supercars. The Donut King Performance Car Championship back next Saturday at 1:30 p.m. from here at Oran Park. And the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series rumbles to Mount Panorama, round 6 at the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000. On behalf of Garth Tander, I'm Aaron Noonan. We'll see you at the mountain.